Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 176 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you back on a Thursday night. Had to reschedule. Ryan is still a little under the weather and was very much so yesterday. I want to give a shout out to friend of the program, Mike McClellan, who's at the Bruins game for his birthday. Shout out to him. Ryan, how are you? And before we get into things, your quick thoughts on the Pascal Siakam trade. Surprise.
Oh God, you put me on the spot. If you can tell by the sound of it, it's not going well. Definitely better than yesterday. But we're still fighting through it. As I said on Twitter, this is going to be my Jordan flu game. To be honest, didn't really see the Siakam trade. See a whole lot on it, so I don't have a ton of thoughts. Obviously, just from a quick glance, it obviously makes the Pacers a lot better. I would have to say the Raptors are probably in full rebuild mode now after the trade they made earlier in the year with the Knicks to get a couple of good players in that deal. But I think they're kind of showing that they're not really going for it at this point. Siakam obviously gives the Pacers another big that they needed, another scorer to go along with Halliburton. So it'll be interesting to see how those two guys work out together. But definitely an interesting trade to see. You know, the Pacers have given the Celtics some fits this season. They've given a lot of teams fits. They've been one of the bigger surprises. This will obviously help them. And really quick, the Bruins just scored like 44 seconds into the game, 34 seconds into the game, if that. So
excellent. I forgot to even bet on the game.
Oh,
Um,
well, you
that's
should have
great.
bet our Pasternak goal because his first shot went in. So,
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of thoughts on it either. I feel like we just touched on it quickly instead of dedicating like a segment to it. But three
Okay.
first round picks is a lot, so good
It
for the
is, yeah.
Raptors. But in the NBA, first round picks really don't honestly matter if you're trying to contend. Um, Football though, studs and duds of the year, plus more, coaching carousel stuff, playoffs and beyond, and all that good stuff, and then some
Mhm.
hockey and some Red Sox. Ryan, for the last time of the year, I will defer to you for studs and duds of the year.
All right. And I went, obviously, when we do this, I go back and tally them up from, both our lists on the year. In case people, maybe yourself included, were curious. We had 30 different studs make the list this year and 36 different duds. So that kind of goes to show what kind of season the Patriots had with more duds than studs. I went with the guy for my number 3 stud that did not make the list once. So a little bit of a caveat there, an interesting pick for myself. But I did so for good reason. David Andrews is my number 3 stud from the year. I did not know this until I can't remember who it was tweeted it out after the season ended. But David Andrews appeared in all 17 games this season and played 100% of the snaps. Probably the first time in his NFL career doing that. A career year for him, maybe in that sense. But if you watched him, post game a couple times that I did after every game, win or loss, went to the podium, had to answer for, how the Patriots played. Just a pro. So I thought I'd give, him some kudos for doing that. We obviously know the type of player he is. Obviously, we talked about him when the season ended. Hopefully, he comes back next year. Maybe with some thoughts of retirement, but a pro's pro. Got to give David Andrews some credit where it's well deserved.
Yeah, he had some rough moments at points this season. He's definitely not the prime David Andrews, but I'd say overall he was pretty consistently solid.
Mhm.
And it's hard for the center, I feel like, to show up on the studs list. So don't
Yeah, we
let
don't do a lot of a
the
center
goose
play
egg. Yeah,
discussion. Yeah.
don't let it fool you. Seems like he's going to stick around, so that's good. And
Mhm.
just a good captain of the team. He's also been on the Dozen Trivia. I've been watching that. He's on one of the teams, which is funny to see. So that's always cool. I mean, when you unexpectedly see a Patriots center on a trivia show you watch, didn't really
Mhm.
expect that ever to happen. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, David Andrews, consummate pro. Kyle Duggar is my number 3 stud of the year. I actually just realized I put times on the duds list next to his name. We should change that to studs. 7 times on the studs list. Had 71 tackles, 38 assisted tackles for 109 combined. A sack and a half, a forced fumble, 2 picks for 35 yards. One of them was 20 yards long. 7 pass deflections and six run stuffs. Just more of what we expect. I think a career year in a lot of ways for him. It's just an absolute stud that needs to be kept around. And another good year. I mean, just a phenomenal draft pick by Bill Belichick, who is,
For sure, a
feels
guy
weird to
that we
say,
have
is
been.
no longer in the organization.
Yeah,
He'll never
absolutely.
not feel weird. So
That's for sure. That's going to take a long time to get used to. But another guy that we have been preaching for all season to extend because he is one of the anchors and one of the identities of your defense, I feel like.
And I feel like when we're talking about extending people, we might as well mix in the fact that it seems like the Patriots will not bring back Mike Onwenu,
It does
according to
make a lot of
Jeremy
sense.
Fowler. That seems to be the thing. I get it because he's going to get a lot of money, but like
Hmm.
I hope they're at least heavily in the bidding war because he's a young, very good, safe option at right tackle.
Hmm.
And I don't know if Trent Brown's going to want to come back, maybe with the new coach, maybe not. Maybe it's just time to move on. But especially if you lose Trent Brown, even though I don't like the guy, you want to keep one of your starting tackles, right?
You would
But
think,
then
yeah, you.
if you lose on Wenu, I'm afraid they're going to bring Brown back, so it's kind
Mhm.
of dicey right now.
Yeah, I mean the offensive line as a whole, as we know, was not very good. Onwenu was one of your main staples and one of the guys you could really count on. So the fact that that came out mere what a half hour before the show, um, pretty discouraging because that's a guy you kind of hoped on that they'd be involved on and involved with. You would kind of hope that Mayo as a new head coach would see like, hey, he was probably our best offensive lineman, might want to bring him back and try to build the offensive line around him, but doesn't appear to be the case. So that'll be something to obviously keep a close eye on moving forward.
No, but things can change, and hopefully they will,
True.
because I'd be very upset if Michael's not kept around. Our
Hmm.
consensus number two stud of the year,
Yep.
Ryan.
No surprise. If you follow the studs and does list for the year, if you just watch the Patriots, the number one and number two might be obvious. Number two made the studs list 8 times. That was the second most. That's why he's our number two. Jelani Tavai. Um, Obviously, Bill Belichick no longer here. One of the better, Bill Belichick pickups of late. Molded into a pretty solid linebacker. 17 games this season, 110 tackles, 1 sack, 5 pressures, a hurry, 3 quarterback knockdowns, 2 forced fumbles, 2 picks, which was tied for the most on the Patriots. So 2 interceptions from the linebacker position really goes to show, how good things were. 1 touchdown allowed in coverage, 5 tackles for losses, 4 quarterback hits, and 5 pass deflections. He had career highs this year in games started, interceptions, pass deflections, forced fumbles, tackles for losses, and quarterback hits. Was one of the most consistent players on defense all year long. And like I just said, one of the guys that I don't want to say came out of nowhere because Tavai had shown flashes in the past these last couple of years. But this was really the breakout year for him. And again, one of the better finds of late for a defense that, at times looked really, really good. At times, struggled. But he was, like I said, one of the more
Hmm.
consistent guys on the year.
Yeah, and to add to what you said, like I think it was a pretty huge surprise to me how good he got. We knew there was ability, but I didn't expect this much. I don't think anybody did.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, super consistent all year long. You're doing something right if you're on the studs list 8 times.
Absolutely. You can take over to save my voice because, like you said, we had consensus number ones as well. So the number one stud of the year, take it away, was
Christian Barmore, the
no
guy
surprise.
you should be paying right
The big
away.
bucks.
The big bucks. This should be your number one priority. I like Kyle Duggar. Jacob Lauko promoted to the third line, scores. Let's go. Um, Christian Barmore is a legit game wrecker. Um, Absolute beast in the interior of the defensive line. 64 tackles, 39 solo, 8.5 sacks, 19 pressures, 6 hurries, 4 QB knockdowns, a forced fumble, 16 QB hits, 13 tackles for loss. Wow. And 6 pass deflections as a defensive tackle. Just a monster.
Pretty good.
Completely blank check type of guy. There should be
Hmm.
no hesitation. Like this is a guy. It's just an absolute no brainer to give what he wants and
Hmm.
let that play out and sign pen to paper.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo all the same. I don't know if you said it. Again, my brain's not working as of now, but 13 was the amount of times to
I
be
did
at the
not
studs
say.
list. That was the most for any Patriot player by quite a bit.
Oh yeah, it was. Um, Number three dud of the year.
Yeah, I went with Tyquan Thornton. He made the duds list 4 times this season, was the seventh most. Just 9 games played this year, was hurt once again, 3 games started. 13 catches on 23 targets for a whopping 91 yards. 3 rushes for 51 yards as well. Did have a little bit of success in the ground game when they used him, on the jet sweeps, the end arounds, whenever they used him. But this was a guy going into the season, new offensive coordinator. You were looking for the Patriots to get back on the right track offensively. You thought, this is a prove it year for Tyquan Thornton. I think we talked about that going into the season, the guy we had high hopes for, because this was a make it or break it year, it seemed like, for him. And he seemed to break it in every way, so much so that he was a healthy scratch. The final week of the season against the Jets, I don't think that's any coincidence that I think the Patriots are probably out on this guy, because he is, as the season went on, as the years have gone on, looking more and more, and I think you can confidently say now, like another bust at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, it's a guy like if he sticks around, he's gonna have a very short leash next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you wonder how much, Belichick had a say in drafting him, and now that he's gone, if they're more easily going to cut bait. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Groh and Wolf are around, but this is a guy that very well might not make it through much of training camp, if any at all, because he's just not very good. He didn't get a ton of targets this year. He was hurt a little bit, but just never really impressed you when he did.
Mm-hmm.
And had one really bad moment. I think that was a glaring weakness. That horrible route he ran against the Commanders,
I was gonna
and then
say that
you're
too. Yep.
scratched the last game of the season. That's not a good omen for a young player who's struggling. Um, yeah, it was a tough year for Tyquan Thornton. Really tough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep with my trend of highlighting a guy that I highlighted his suckiness a lot. Lawrence guy that gets a lot of praise, I feel like, for really no reason at this
Mm-hmm.
point outside of his community contributions and like leadership.
Yep.
Because he's not good at football anymore. Played the large majority of snaps, I'd say probably 12 to 16 game out of 16 games this year, 17 rather. Um, 16 tackles, 22 assisted tackles for 38 combined, a tackle for loss, and a pass deflection. Where for how much he played is not good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Like you're in the interior of the defensive line to do so little and not light up the score sheet really at all is pretty embarrassing for a
Mm-hmm.
veteran. Like I just don't think he's a good football player anymore.
Yeah, and kind of a weird year for him. I mean, it's not great numbers to begin with, but obviously people remember you had the training camp. He kind of sat out either the first couple of days or the first week or so with the whole contract dispute. Not a good look there. And then obviously not really, when you do come out and, decide to play, not really backing it up in any means. So a guy that I feel like probably is more so at the end of his rope here, unless Jerod Mayo wants to bring him back or keep him around. I don't know what his contract situation is. But yeah, definitely a guy that was underwhelming to say the least this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Not
Hmm.
great. And
Sticking
then
with
we
the
have
underwhelming, again, consensus
yeah.
1 and 2 for us. We'll still start with number 2. Juju Smith-Schuster. He was on the Duds list 7 times. That was tied for the third most. Played 11 games this year, started 7 of them, had just 29 receptions on 45 targets, 260 yards, and 1 touchdown on the year. When you sign a guy to a 3-year, $25.5 million deal with 16 guaranteed, you let a guy walk who was pretty productive for you, played the same position, very similar skill set. You would like to get some production from that deal, and he gave you practically nothing. He really did give you nothing up until that game. I can't remember which game it was where he had the touchdown. But I go from a draft wide receiver bust in Tyquan Thornton to a complete free agent wide receiver bust in Juju Smith-Schuster, because he was not good from the start and never really picked it up at any point this season. Then he got hurt. We all kind of probably saw that coming. With the reports of his knee injury and everything like that.
Yeah.
Just not a good year for Juju Smith-Schuster. And going into next year, unless he just comes back and is fully healthy, I don't really have a whole lot of faith that this injury is going to get any better. He's going to get any more consistent. Because again, there really just wasn't a whole lot from him throughout this season.
Yeah, it comes down to it with a player like him, like you just have to well, how do I want to say this?
I don't know.
The I don't know. I'm trying to find the right words to put together here. I feel like he needs to just put it together better. Like he just
To put it as layman
there was
as
a
terms
there was a
possible.
there was a fundamental lack of understanding, lack of impact.
Mhm.
Like you never really noticed him for large stretches of games, whether that's how they schemed him up, whether he got open.
Mhm.
Just a really bizarre year that was somewhat predictable. Not this bad, I guess,
Mhm.
but an underwhelming free agent signing. I don't feel super optimistic, but I'm a little, I guess. But he's not going to live up to that dollar amount.
No,
He might
not even
provide
close.
more production than this past year, which shouldn't be hard.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of just wonder at this point if he's just not a good football player.
I would probably lean towards that.
Like I
I
feel
would,
like he is though, but he was just he was
there wasn't really
such a nobody.
That's what I mean. There wasn't really a time this year, like at least we got on Devontae Parker a lot, but at least there were a couple games where like Devontae Parker showed you like contested catches, made
Mhm.
some plays here and there down the field. Like, okay, I can see why the Patriots keep Devontae Parker around and maybe gave him that extension because he does have a little bit of ability. Juju gave you like nothing, it seemed like. And that was obviously the big thing
Like
we got on
one
him for
game.
most of the year. Exactly. Yeah, that
I
one
forget what
again,
game.
can't remember what game it was he even scored the touchdown in. That's how irrelevant
Might have been
he was.
Commanders.
Might have been.
No. I don't know if the touchdown was Commanders, but there was one game I think he had like 70 yards. It might have been
Okay.
Commanders.
Maybe
Not
something to
sure.
build off of, but he was another
Then
guy too, though. If you remember back, started off weird start to the year when they
mhm.
signed him. A lot of people made a big stink of this. I don't think we really touched on it a whole lot. But never really got with Mac or anybody to catch the football. Usually when a new guy comes in at the wide receiver position, you see him make some sort of effort to, maybe get with a group of guys, go play catch. Maybe learn the system a little bit
He
before
knew
training
Zappy
camp
was going to be the
starts,
guy all along.
and he didn't. So maybe he did. Yeah, maybe he just wanted nothing to do with Mac Jones.
Yeah,
Um,
I just don't like the vibes
the
around him
vibes
at
are bad.
all. I
Yep.
never have
Hmm.
ever since the Pittsburgh days, just never have.
Hmm.
Um, it comes back to the whole Jacoby Myers thing too. It just doesn't look good.
Yep.
The consensus number one dud should not be a surprise to anybody because he was benched for the last what
Benched four
five, six
separate times in
games
the season.
of the season,
Yep.
something like that. Um, it is Mac Jones,
Hmm.
who is I saw people making a big deal of him being at Jerod Mayo's press conference. I don't really get that.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all.
He is
Yeah.
on the team.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't he go? Kind of weird. But
Did any other player go? I don't know if
I don't know. I
I
don't
was
really
gonna because I
care.
was gonna
It
say
doesn't
they only
really.
made us everyone really only made a stink about Max. So
Yeah.
and he was the only one I saw in video. So I was curious if maybe people shouldn't be giving him so much crap if he was the only player that showed up. Like maybe he was
Yeah,
the one guy showing support.
just a guy that is broken in
Hmm.
this organization. Obviously, the system's going to change a little bit with Belichick and people moving around. Belichick out and people moving around. Adding new guys to the staff. I don't see a scenario where Mac Jones is back. God damn it. My chapstick fell out of my pocket. He's just not a good football player, at least on the Patriots.
Yep.
Maybe he goes somewhere else, the right fit. Maybe he goes somewhere where Josh McDaniels goes to be an OC. I don't know.
We
I don't know
talked
where
about
that'll be.
Atlanta being a good spot for him, and now if Bill Belichick goes down there, I think
Yeah,
that might
I
knock
think that rules
Atlanta
that
off the
out.
list. Yeah.
But if I don't know, maybe he goes. Josh McDaniels lands an OC job somewhere else. I think he's gonna follow Bill though.
Hmm.
Things aren't looking good for Mac. Like, where is he gonna go? Could he be a Bronco? Could he be a Viking? Like,
It's got to be somewhere not
I don't
here.
know. If he's got a chance to be a Falcon if it's not Belichick. I think Belichick's gonna interview with more teams.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was just it's been a dysfunctional career for him here. But this year is when it really hit the sewers, and I don't see a scenario where Mac Jones is back next year.
Nope.
64.9% completion percentage played in 11 games, 2,120 yards. I bet a lot on his over touchdown total. Not
Mhm.
great. 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, a 36.7 QBR and
Oof.
192.7 yards per game. Um, just it's not going to work here. I'm not going to completely rule him out somewhere else, although I don't have high hopes, but it's just not going to work here.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we're both in agreement for a while that it's gonna have if it's gonna change, it's gonna have to change somewhere else. Like I still have hope for the guy. I don't hate him as much as I feel like most Patriots fans do because I think there is some ability there, and I think there was obviously reports. We're not going to get into them too much. After the season ended and after Bill was let go of the stuff that Mac was dealing with like multiple coaches in his headset. You know, I can't remember what some of the other things. Whether it was either Jeff Howe or somebody had a tweet out that summarized a couple of things that really was looking at the dysfunction that Mac had to deal with. So again, for his sake, I hope he gets his head right. I hope he is able to figure it out because I think there is some ability there. But his time here just it doesn't make any sense, especially now with the draft pick you have, what the draft potentially is going to look like. You pretty much almost have to go quarterback. I feel like at the number 3 spot. So Mac probably going to be out of a job here sooner rather than later. Interesting. Like I texted you the list. Interesting that the top 2 duds from the season were Mac Jones with 9 times on the dud list, and then Bailey Zappi, who only appeared in 4 starts. He made the dud list 8 times between the two of us. So, just goes to show how dysfunctional the Patriots' position of quarterback was this season. I wasn't going to put Bailey Zappi on my duds list because obviously he didn't play a full season. Have a majority of the games. I feel like you probably went the same direction when it came to your duds list. But any thoughts on Zappi's future here, or, his end of the season?
I see him as the backup.
Okay.
And I still kind of feel where, like, if they draft Jaden Daniels, they don't feel he's 100% ready. They give Zappy some rope just to, let Jaden Daniels get in the system or whoever. It could be Drake May. We never know.
Mm-hmm.
Let them get their feet wet. Let them learn a little bit. And then if Zappy sucks, so they're like, okay, it's time for a change. They do that. I think Bailey Zappy sticks around next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mac Jones doesn't.
Yep. I'm right there with you.
And
Go ahead.
that segues us while we're talking about Jane Daniels. Jerod Mayo, who we're going to talk about in a second, said we're going to draft the best player for a position that's very important. You put the pieces together. So I'm just saying, Patriots fans, get accustomed to the idea of Jane Daniels being your franchise quarterback next year.
I wouldn't hate that.
I'm
glad they kind of alluded to that they're not going to trade the pick down. That's nice to know going into the draft night that you're probably going to hopefully stay at 3.
Yes.
I think with this new regime coming in, it would be very, very aggravating to see the Patriots take the draft pick and trade down like they've done with Bill for so many years. But yeah, that was very interesting. You don't really see that a whole lot from the Patriots. They kind of are alluding to their plans for the future.
Yeah, I think Jerod Mayo made it clear that, things are going to be different, obviously. Made a joke about, too much Bill or whatever he said too, which some people might run with the wrong way. I don't really care. I like Jerod Mayo. I didn't watch the whole press conference. I was going to watch it if it was relatively quick before this, but it was 47 minutes long. Didn't have time. But he's here. He's been introduced as a head coach. He's filling out his staff, working on it at least. And I think the vibes are good. It's all obviously tough when you fire a legend like Bill Belichick or mutually part ways. But I think, this is something that they've been comfortable with for a while because it was written into his contract. You can't adequately replace a guy that's won 6 Super Bowls, countless conference championships, division titles, like just countless accolades, countless legendary moments, legendary decisions, funny moments. You can't replace that across the board. And I think Jerod Mayo understands that. And I think from what I read and clips I saw, he's got a good mindset. He's got a good demeanor to him that I like. And I'm pretty optimistic. But
yeah, I am too.
really am going to miss Bill. It was tough to watch his press conference. He was getting choked up. I was getting choked up. Sometimes you just got to move on. It doesn't last forever. Bill Belichick has brought us tons and tons of happiness, along with so many great Patriots, and I'm gonna miss him. So, thanks, Bill. I hope you don't end up with Atlanta.
I know that's the one thing I was praying that the Cowboys after we'll touch on that obviously later, but I was praying
that's just a lose though.
If Bill goes to Dallas,
yes.
Why would you? I would rather
the Cowboys.
Yeah, but I would rather him end up on a good team than end up with a shitbag organization like the Falcons.
I'm glad they won't. The Cowboys would be really good with Bill Belichick.
They would
probably win playoff games, maybe a Super Bowl. I'd rather have him go Atlanta any day.
Really?
Any day.
Oh, that's gross. I hate that.
Any day.
So then, are you rooting for Bill to lose in his next? Like, are you rooting for him to have success?
He will take the Falcons to the playoffs.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He will take the Falcons.
We've seen how much of a dumpster fire of an organization that is, even when they are good.
He's in the NFC South. He is miles smarter and more experienced than Arthur Smith.
Fair. Who doesn't even call his own plays? We know at the end of games.
He will sculpt that defense in his image. The secondary is okay. Maybe he needs a few more pieces. Some really good players like AJ Terrell and Richie Grant. The front 7 needs a lot of work. If he puts that together, that's a playoff team. Makes the right moves, that's a playoff team with Bill Belichick.
They got to get a quarterback.
That too.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
Yep. Got to get a quarterback.
They can do it.
Okay.
I like that as Justin Fields spot. Just saying. Now we got Cliff Kingsbury potentially going to the
Would be
Bears.
interesting.
If Cliff Kingsbury go to the Bears, that might put a stamp on Caleb Williams being the guy. and that opens up the avenue for Justin Fields, but for Bill Belichick, Bijan Robinson to actually be used properly, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, maybe you have another guy in the draft, free agency, but it's not going to matter if they don't fix up the front seven of that defense because it's
True.
really, really, really bad.
Mhm.
And luckily, they have a top 10 pick to address that with maybe a guy like Dallas Turner if a QB isn't available.
Mhm.
But I don't know. If it kind of goes against Bill's philosophy, but I wonder if he's in Atlanta, if they get aggressive and go up and try and get Jane Daniels or Drake May.
Hate that. That would be
I don't think it will
if
happen
there's
under
any
Bill.
bad blood, that would be one hell of a move to F the Patriots over, trade up to 2 potentially.
I didn't even think of that angle.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Getting a little in fantasy land,
Oh,
but
there's
I don't
plenty of
know.
time to overthink it between now and
Yeah,
the
okay.
draft. But
But I'm cool with what's happened. It
Mhm.
sucks. But some names that have been mentioned as the next OC, Bill O'Brien, kind of hope not. Kind of really hope
I
not.
just don't know how you could even remote. I mean, you obviously have to entertain it because he's still here. But after what happened last season, like gets a ton of the blame too for how
I
bad
still
things
kind of
were.
wonder if he goes to reunite with Bryce Young.
Well, maybe.
Maybe he goes back to
So
Bama
yeah,
again. Josh McDaniels would
kind of
also be
hope
okay
not.
with it. Zach Robinson. I would very much like Zach Robinson. He's at the top of my list for the Rams. Or close there. Nick Caley, some familiarity with the Patriots, left for the Rams. Same with Chad O'Shea, left for the Browns, could come back. Shane Waldron, offensive coordinator in Seattle. Don't really know much about the guy. Kellen Moore, I'd be okay with it. Not like chomping at the bit. Brian
I'm
Hartline, uh, I don't know what his willingness to leave is, but I imagine he would take an NFL job. Don't really know a lot about his philosophy, but have watched Ohio State. Bo Hardigree, kind of all set on him, and Clint Kubiak would be a nice pickup as well, in my opinion. Those are some names that have been mentioned.
Kellen Moore's name stood out to me, and I'm kind of out on him because, excuse me, I know Dallas was good last year when he was there. I know the Chargers had a lot of injuries this year, so that obviously tapers out their offense. But Dallas's offense looked a hell of a lot better this year than it did last year without Kellen Moore there.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Like everyone kind of talked about last year about him being, this guru and everything, and now the offense looks better without him. I don't know how much faith I have in Kellen Moore. I know he's a decent coach. Don't get me wrong. Um, I don't know. Like obviously, I don't know a lot about these names, um, more or less probably than you do.
I'll
So
put
really,
this
there
out
isn't.
there too.
Go ahead.
My top three in order is Robinson, Kubiak, McDaniels.
Okay. I'm surprised you would bring Josh McDaniels back here. I kind of thought once he was gone, you'd be kind of that ship has sailed type of thing.
I'm at the point where like Josh McDaniels has enough ability as an OC. That's his role.
Hmm.
And if Mayo trusts him without Bill to come back, I have faith in. Like,
Okay.
if they don't bring McDaniels back, that's because Mayo really wants to go in a different direction. Because I think Josh McDaniels would come back unless he absolutely just wants to go wherever Bill goes.
Hmm.
I guess that kind of lends credence to why he should be lower on the list too, because I think he might just go where Bill goes. But yeah, I like Robinson and Kubiak the most. I think what Robinson has helped do in LA, a team that could have conceivably missed the playoffs. Obviously, Cup and Nakua are ridiculous. And
Hmm.
then Kubiak, we know what the deal is with the 49ers, a high octane offense. Another goal for the Bruins. I don't know. Some options I like. Some options I like.
So if Josh comes back here, then you think they give Mac one more kick at the can? You did just say that you think wherever Josh
Ryan,
ends up is
Ryan,
where Mac
Ryan.
Jones ends up. He's the hard
No,
hitting. These
no,
the hard
no,
hitting
no.
questions you have to ponder.
That was connecting the three of them. If or now you're confusing me, Ryan. Jesus,
I'm
you
sorry.
just gave me like war flashbacks. God damn it.
You're that meme of
Um,
the.
if Josh McDaniels came back and Mac Jones came back, I would be broken inside.
I think
And
I would
me,
be too.
God, now you got me all conflicted.
Hmm.
Fuck that shit. Jerod Mayo's era,
Moving on.
baby.
Yep.
Some names. Tem Lukabu for the defensive coordinator position, the Panthers old linebacker coach. He's formerly of Boston College, 49ers and Bengals as well. Who else? Marquise Williams for a special teams position for their head coach, which kind of tells me Cam cord might be on his way out.
Which
I
I'm
will
fine with.
say he hasn't retired yet. When he retires, please interview Matthew
Matthew
Slater for
Slater.
that
Yep.
position. Please interview
I
Matthew
take
Slater.
that. There were jokes potentially about Donta Hightower maybe coming in being the linebackers coach. I don't know if I'd hate that. That would be pretty good.
I like that for obviously what he could provide on the field for the players, but Donta Hightower was known for huge, huge moments in the Super
Hmm.
Bowl. So
He's
having a guy like that
arguably
in
the
the locker
reason
room,
they won the Atlanta one. Like that strip sack or stop, whatever
big
it
time
was. Can't
player.
remember. Yeah,
Having a guy like that on your staff has value to me too. I think that should be
absolutely.
accounted for. I would love Donta Hightower. I soured on him his last year here because he
Hmm.
was kind of just coasting out there, I think. But we'll love him back in the organization. Um, should we get into our recap of the last week?
There was one thing I wanted because it was kind of caught some airwaves this of late. The talk about the GM search, and there was the Jeff Howe report that Matt Groh and Elliot Wolf will continue to run the operation for now. Patriots will likely interview additional candidates for the leadership positions, but there's no guarantee at the moment anyone will get the GM title. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because that kind of worries me a little bit. Like I would prefer if they're going to go with a new head coach. Obviously, a new GM would be nice as well. Because we've seen in the past, Matt Groh, I think, was the guy that was, keen on bringing Tyquan Thornton in here. He was, I think his comment was something like, you guys want speed, let's get speed or something like that. Something stupid. So, Matt Groh is a guy that's come under fire of late a little bit with his decision making. So any thoughts on the GM search, or are you cool with kind of just elevating from within?
Russ Gold counted, by the way.
Nice.
If they are going to bring in a GM, I would like it to be done before free agency, never mind the draft. But
That would make the most sense. Yeah.
given the vibes of it potentially circling around Wolf and Grow running the show, that's okay if they don't bring in a GM. But if they're going to bring someone in, I want their input on the decisions before free agency.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Like, it's not like you have to have a GM before free agency in the draft, but I prefer it. I
It
got to
makes
be
things
honest.
easier, I feel like.
Yeah, but I don't know. With all the additional reports that came out after the initial Jeff Howe one, it kind of seems right now like they're going to stick with Wolf and Grow. So that's fine if they don't hire a de facto GM. But I don't know. I think like hiring a titular GM after the draft will be a little weird.
Okay.
Not the end of the world, but a little weird, a little strange, but not like a bad thing, I guess.
Hmm.
It would just be a little strange. Um, Super Wildcard Weekend. I just kind
Sure.
of had like
A little bit of a
like a
brain
space
fart
out
there.
moment.
Yep.
I was kind of looking at the Bruins too. Super Wildcard Weekend. Yeah, the Texans started things off hot. A 45-14 win on home field against the Cleveland Browns. The Joe Flacco luster wore off quickly,
Yes, it did.
real quickly. People are saying he's a sleeper agent for the Ravens. Maybe so. That would be
Okay.
really funny. Uh, this was some people might be waiting for the Ravens game, but this is what I needed to see to be like fully like CJ Stroud's the guy. It's
Hmm.
not like I've needed a ton. Like I've been high on CJ Stroud, but to do that in a playoff game against a team you're an underdog against in your first career playoff game is a big
Hmm.
deal. Um, he only threw 5 incompletions, no picks, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Um, Singletary was money. What a signing for them.
Hmm.
He's played so much better than he did in Buffalo, I feel.
Yep.
Nico Collins, amazing. Brevin Jordan, that's when it felt like it was over. That 76-yard touchdown for Brevin Jordan is when it felt like it was over to me. Dalton
Hmm.
Schultz also gets in the end zone. Pretty efficient tight end play. You have 2 targets to your tight ends, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Go for scores. Yeah.
Um,
Pretty good.
Shout out to D'Amico Ryans too. I don't know if you saw that clip of him scheming things up
The
with
one with
Christian
Christian Harris.
Harris.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was money. Christian Harris, a guy from Bama, I thought the Patriots might have drafted a few years ago. That's okay though. And the defense, like I can because they have D'Amico Ryans. They got Will Anderson high in the drafts, got CJ Stroud. But how well this has worked with the Texans is astonishing and really nothing short right now of phenomenal.
Hmm.
Like this team I don't know if I should say at this point shouldn't be in the playoffs or shouldn't have made the playoffs, but this
The
team is
jump shouldn't have been as quick as it was. Like you
no,
don't
that's
usually see
right.
with this young of a team. Like you just said, with one of your most important position in all of sports, if you ask me, rookie quarterback just kind of thrown into the fire. Like, hey, you're a guy. Here we go. Let's see what you can do. Um, not to say that he's a slouch or anything. Obviously, you have high hopes for a high draft pick, but like you said, the fact that Stroud came out and played this well, I think what was the stat? He either tied or broke. Was it Michael Vick's playoff record for touchdowns in his first game as a whatever it was, rookie
I'm
quarterback
not
in the
sure.
playoffs, something like that. That's what's been most impressive. We talked about it all year when we talk about the Texans. It's just how quickly this is coming together. Because, like I've said it before, you and I both picked this to be a team, and a lot of other people as well. To be probably like a 4 or 5 win team, they're building towards something, but they're a year or two out. The fact that it's all come together this quickly, and the fact that this game was never really even that close. I mean, they blew the doors off this thing pretty early. And his, Stroud looked as comfortable as ever. Like it was just another regular season game for him. Any throw he wanted to make, he could, it seemed like. That was what was, in my opinion, the most impressive thing is like you feel like you would have saw, some jitters from a lot of these young guys, but there really wasn't any case of that. And they took it to the Browns all afternoon.
Yeah, and it's not like CJ Stroud is this robot. I don't know if you saw before the game too. Like they asked, like, do you get nervous before games? He's like, yeah, I
Mhm.
still get nervous before
Yeah,
games.
every game he said, yep.
It's not like that he's this football robot. He's just a man. Like, I don't know what else you could
He's
say.
just
Like
calm,
CJ
cool, and
Stroud is the
collected. Yeah,
man.
yep.
Like, unbelievable. And if he
Mhm.
keeps playing like this, the Bryce Young pick is just gonna keep looking worse and worse.
Absolutely.
Um, because it definitely looks somehow worse than it did coming into this week because of how dominant he was.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say somehow worse. Maybe that's the wrong term, but a dominant performance. I think the game against the Ravens is going to be really fun. I
Yep.
think they could keep it really close, or I think they could lose by 2 touchdowns. But we'll see. You'll hear our predictions more in depth once we get to the preview. But a big win for the Texans. I'm happy they're alive. They're just such a fun
Yep.
story. Dolphins at Chiefs. The Chiefs win 26-7. The stamp of finesse bitch team is permanent on this
Yep.
season. Um,
That game was so
I wasn't
aggravating to watch. I don't mean
I
to cut you
wasn't
off,
fully
but
right about the Dolphins, but I was kind of right about the
you pretty
Dolphins
much
for
were. I don't know how
sure.
much more right you needed to be, though. I mean,
In terms of the win total, I think
okay.
mainly, but I think the message I was trying to get across at the beginning of the season,
Oh, you're talking about your preseason predictions. I got you. Okay.
yeah, like they're gonna have hot stretches, but I just don't know if it's gonna turn into anything, and they're gonna be, you know, duds, and this was a dud.
Mhm.
Um, not built for the weather. Tua got Dolphins fans wondering, do they need a quarterback in the next year or two? I don't think they'll draft one early this year,
Mhm.
but they do have their first if they would like. Um, I think next year's it for Tua. Like, if he has a great regular season, then fizzles out or they miss the playoffs or something, he's gone.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
Which
that's
is
not too
kind of
crazy to
wild.
say.
MVP favorite early on in the season to this. The Dolphins fell apart. They really did.
Mhm.
The Chiefs, I don't think blew doors, but they played really solid, like efficient Chiefs football
Mhm.
that we've seen them capable of doing. And at times this year, you have Patrick Mahomes, but your defense needs to step up. And their defense has been really good for stretches this year. They needed to. They shut the door on the Dolphins in their season. Pacheco was great. Rashee Rice was awesome. And they got shit done.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I mean, I was texting you, I think, during the game, which is just very aggravating to watch because, like you said, Mahomes, he didn't blow the doors off of anything. He was efficient in this game, but he wasn't the typical Patrick Mahomes. Kelsey had moments, but I feel like he had a few more big drops than he normally has in a big playoff game. Pacheco, is going to get his. As soon as you saw what the weather is going to be like, you knew they were going to ride him, and he was probably going to be effective because the Dolphins, I don't think, were that great in the regular season. But some of the Rashee Rice plays, he took the role of we've seen the Chiefs play before, the just bomb it downfield, and it's usually Travis Kelsey who's wide open, but this time it's Rashee Rice. That was what was frustrating is the Dolphins' mistakes just continued to pile up. Um, and obviously going into the game, knowing that this team was pretty much a fraud, just to watch it all play out again, was aggravating to say the least. But now you do get a good matchup coming up, Chiefs and Bills, which is what everybody probably wanted to begin with. But yeah, Dolphins, what a lackluster performance outside of obviously the big Tyreek Hill touchdown.
Absolutely. Um, I did not see these in the chat earlier because I was looking at the outline, but good timing for it. Dana Council in the football, I'm assuming the Full Press NFL Facebook chat. This is good timing for it. Which team had the worst collapse? The Eagles or the Cowboys? And we're talking about that game right now. Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys, 48-32. Packers on the road. Cowboys collapse again despite scoring 32 points.
Yeah, that was not a very
I'll say
truthful
I'll
32.
I'll say the
Like,
Eagles had the bigger collapse. 10-1
really?
team. Um, Complete fundamental collapse. Hiring Matt Patricia,
Mhm.
Jalen Hurts getting hurt, potential beef against him and AJ Brown. AJ Brown's out. Linebacker play horrible. Overall play horrible. Offense lackluster. This is a team that should have won the damn Super Bowl this year. Like honestly.
Mhm.
Um,
When
and I
you put it like
wonder,
that, okay,
it's
I can
when it
kind of get
comes
behind your argument.
when it comes back to this, like when it comes to this point, rather, you really wonder how much Nick Sirianni was supported by guys, in the play of the team was supported by guys like Jonathan Gannon and the other guy who left, whose name is slipping my mind right now from their staff last year. That was Gannon and who?
Yeah, I'm the wrong
I'm
guy to
drawing a
ask. You know
blank.
that.
They lost like two offensive staff members, including Gannon. And I heard someone mention, I'm like, I didn't really think of that. Like, did Sirianni like run out of tricks to win games? Because they weren't like always dominating teams when they were winning games early in the season. Hell, the
Oh, their
Patriots
offense
almost beat
stunk
them.
compared to last year.
The Patriots almost beat them. Um, and the Packers and the Cowboys, back to this game.
This is my pick
This
for biggest collapse.
this this was insane. This game was insane.
Hmm. The only reason why I say the Cowboy, other than the fact that the Cowboys were like, this happened at home. We talked about it. I said it going into it as part of my prediction from last week was that the Cowboys don't lose at home and they usually dominate teams at home. With the Eagles, you could kind of see this coming. You and I both kind of said the same thing. Like, okay, if whoever they go on the road to face coming out of the NFC South, they're probably going to lose to because they haven't played good down the stretch. They're starting to get injuries. They're starting to get banged up. They haven't been all that impressive. So you can kind of see a loss coming from them. The Cowboys are going into the playoffs riding high. Everyone kind of picked them as, a huge favorite to go to the Super Bowl. I feel like probably everyone you heard, analyst wise, said this is probably their best year to win the Super Bowl with how just star-studded that team was and how, the dominant they had been on both, sides of the ball. And to come out and again, 32 points. If you watch that game, like the game was not as close as it was, score wise at the end. The Cowboys, for the most part of this game, did not show up. There was some people who want to blame Dak for the performance. I didn't think he was as bad as people thought he was. The two interceptions weren't great, obviously, but their defense never showed up in this game. McCarthy just looked like he had, circles coached around him, which isn't a surprise in the playoffs, I guess, when it comes to Mike
And they're
McCarthy.
keeping him, which is the best.
Which yeah, they're gonna just be mediocre again. But yeah, I mean, the Cowboys to me is the biggest letdown of the playoffs because for all those reasons, they're at home. It looked like their best chance going into, maybe finally get to a Super Bowl and win the thing. And to lay an egg as big as they did in this game again, 48-32, that not indicative whatsoever. They were not in this game really at any point.
No, they weren't. And I put $25 on CeeDee Lamb, and he didn't score despite 32 points, which sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, with the Eagles thing, they scored 9 points against the Bucks.
That's true too. Yep, they did not show up really at all either.
But yeah, I mean, it's so wild to watch. Aaron Jones, obviously 3 touchdowns, despite having a tough year with injuries. But like, you have such a young receiver core. Romeo Dobbs, 151 yards and a touchdown. Luke Musgrave gets in the end zone. Dontavian Wicks,
their two best
had a
receivers
touchdown.
didn't do anything in this
Yeah,
game,
that's
and
what I
they
was gonna
still
say
blew
too.
the Cowboys out.
Like, sure, 3 touchdowns from your running back and 131 yards total helps, but like, the Packers are a problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
A big problem for anybody, namely the 49ers. Rams at Lions. Great football game.
Best game of the card.
Live bet a good amount on the Rams. They lost by 1. Pain. Jared Goff. They're calling him like the king of Detroit. Paul Walker was fired up. Fans coming up to him in his car. Amon-Ra, awesome. Sam Laporta gets in the end zone. Didn't really do much elsewhere. Josh Reynolds, big day. Aiden Hutchinson, balled out. And Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua in particular played really good on the other side. It just wasn't enough. It was just a great football game, though.
Do you have
First
any
win in
thoughts on
32 years in the playoffs.
Yeah, I
Four.
mean, it's the Lions been fun. We've said it all year watching them or getting, to see what we've seen of them. Do you have any thoughts on Stafford getting like severely booed when he came back? I kind of thought that was kind of lame. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
didn't
I
really
didn't
really care for that all
get
that
that either.
much. Yeah, but
Yeah, that was lame. I
mhm.
agree. But great football game. I
Yeah,
thought
I'm
the Rams were
glad.
gonna win, but
I'm glad it was a good every other game. Obviously you like points, but let's be honest. Like I said it last week, you never really want to see a blowout. You'd like to see competitive games. The fact that this came down to the wire, like I was obviously praying because we talked about it when I did my predictions last week. You were kind of hoping to avoid heartbreak for the Lions. Almost happened with a couple of late. I was gonna say late innings. I was thinking baseball. Late game drives to the Rams, but the Lions able to hold on. And like you said, all the stuff that came out after the fact with the locker room stuff. The fans, obviously great to see. Great to see they get to host another playoff game this upcoming week, so that'll be fun again. And you just, I don't know how you at this point you can't root unless you just completely hate the Lions for whatever reasons. How you can't root for them moving forward because it's been such a great story for them this season.
yeah, yeah, I don't know how you can root against them either unless you're like a rival.
Mhm.
I feel like I had something I lost my train of thought on, but that's okay. That usually tells me it wasn't that important.
There you
Um,
go.
Steelers and Bills. Bills went 31-17. Uh, Josh Allen, pretty efficient, no picks either. Touchdown on the ground. Bills a little scary, maybe, for whoever they have next, the Chiefs. I don't know why I drew blank on that.
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to play the Bills right now. Could they have, they won by 14, but could they have beaten this terrible Steelers team without TJ Watt by more? Sure. Um, but they got it done. It's just a good, you know, better team wins. Like I don't really have much else to add. It was not super exciting in my opinion
Mhm.
for a
No, it
relatively high
wasn't.
scoring game,
No.
but they took care of business.
No, this to me, and I feel like some people are kind of saying this too through all the talking heads and everything. This might be the most dominant the Bills have looked in a little bit. Like they're obviously winning games in multiple ways. They can beat you on offense. I think I talked about it either last week or a couple weeks ago. You're starting to not obviously Diggs had a nice game in this one, but you're starting to just not see just a boatload of step on Diggs. Other guys have been getting involved. Obviously Kincaid and Knox, the two tight ends, find the end zone. Khalil Shakir had an awesome touchdown run to show kind of his
Yep.
shiftiness and his speed. Josh Allen, beat him in the air 3 times. Also had the what was it, 52-yard rushing touchdown. So he's running guys over too. Their defense has been dominant down the stretch. Obviously, like you said, not that Pittsburgh's offense is all that high flying, but their run game was good coming into this game. The Bills were able to shut that down pretty good. Held them to under 26 minutes of time of possession for the Steelers, which isn't that crazy. So the Bills look as complete as they have in quite some time. Which, if you're the Chiefs coming in this game, obviously these two teams usually tend to play these high scoring, high flying games. Spoiler alert for my prediction, might not be the case this time around because the Bills, like I said, their defense has played great of late, and their offense is what it's been. So Bills looking as dangerous as ever.
Yeah. It's a team you don't want to play right now. They're getting hot
Nope.
at the right time. They've been hot. Eagles at Bucks. Bucks 32, Eagles 9. Baker Mayfield's pretty good overall. Three touchdowns to the air, 337 yards, 22 to 36. A couple of rushes for 16 yards. Really consistent spreading the ball around effort. Rashad White, 72 yards. Trey Palmer had that 56-yard catch. Every time he tweets that he's pissed off, he scores or has a big game, which is funny, really funny. Cade Otton, 8 catches for 89 yards. Didn't see that coming. David Moore has a nice touchdown, 66 yards and a touchdown. And Evans and Godwin didn't really do a lot, and they didn't have to. 48 yards for Evans, Godwin, 45 yards and a touchdown, which is nothing to scoff at. Just not a ton of yards, I suppose.
Hmm.
It was really just Devontae Smith doing some shit. DeAndre Swift making some plays here and there, and a whole lot of lacklusterness from the Eagles. Expected. They suck. Unbelievable collapse. Such a shame. Um, Bucks moving on. Credit to them. I mean, like another team that probably shouldn't be in a position they are,
No,
but they
definitely
are.
not. But
So,
I mean,
I mean,
again,
that
it
whole
was
division sucks. So,
yeah, it's you just got to get to either 500 or over it. You probably got a pretty good chance of winning that division. Or in last year's case, a game under 500, you're in there pretty good. But yeah, I mean, if I don't know how much of this game you watch start to finish. I mean, this is another one where the Eagles just never even showed up to play. Like Buck brought it up a lot on the broadcast, but the tackling from the Eagles was horrendous in this game. I mean, you and I might have been able to tackle guys better out there with how bad it was. And then the Bucks defense obviously showed up. You know, they go 6 for 14 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down, and held the Eagles to a combined 0 of 11 between third down and fourth down conversions. 0 of 9 on third down, 0 of 2 on fourth down. Eagles just looked absolutely lost in this game. Maybe that was just because they didn't have AJ Brown, so you lose a huge part of that offense. But both sides of the ball, they were just absolutely atrocious on, and one of the more uninspiring performances you'll see of the weekend.
yeah, I mean, it's really just a shame, isn't it?
So you hate to see it.
Um, Divisional round. Texans at Ravens. Ravens minus 7.5. Over under is 43.5. I noticed in the outline a lot of our score predictions are very similar, so we're in
Yes,
similar
sir.
headspaces. Um, they played once this season, 25-9 Ravens. Ravens are definitely the better team, but coming off the bye week, Lamar Jackson, is he going to be different than in the past? 1-3 in the playoffs. I think he will be. I think this Ravens team is different. But Texans might have a little team of destiny in them. They can keep this game close.
I hope so.
Like I said, they can keep it close, or they can lose by 2 touchdowns. I could see either happening. Not leaning one way or another, but man, this is a game that could be so fun. That really makes me wish that Tank Dell was healthy too, just to add to the fun. Such a
Mhm.
shame that he's not. I don't know. I think this is unfortunate where the road ends for the Texans. It's been a great year. There's a lot to build off of, and they have a really bright future. But it's the Ravens. I can't pick against the Ravens, even coming off the bye. You know what? Do they start a little slow? Is Lamar Jackson, does he have another disappointing playoff run where it doesn't, get that Super Bowl he talked about on draft night? That I assume he's, really looking forward to this year to
Mhm.
um, put that to bed and get that first of hopefully many for him. I'm going 30-20 Ravens in this one.
It's kind of a weird spot for the Texans because I feel like we could kind of talk about the same thing we talked about last week with the Browns preview. You know, they playing obviously on the road, going up against a really good defense. The Browns defense was good going into last week's game. Obviously gets torched. The Ravens defense, one of the best in the NFL this year. Um, but you said it, it's Lamar Jackson factor. You got to think he snaps out of his playoff, snafus at some point. I don't put any stock into that first game they played against each other. You know, first game of the season, CJ Stroud's first game of his NFL career. So I'm not going to take anything away from that game. Um, I'm with you. Like I hate to do it. I hate to pick the Ravens because I can't stand that team. But better team, 24-20. I think CJ Stroud has proven he can step up in the playoffs. I think we'll keep it close. The only good thing about this is you and I think, both picked them to lose last week against the an AFC North team, and look what happened. So maybe we'll get lucky again and reverse jinx them here, and maybe they'll blow out the Ravens. But I don't know, Ravens all
Whoa,
around.
out. Whoa.
I mean, we picked against them last week against the Browns. So just going off of the fact that we are picking against them again this week, maybe they'll surprise us. But Ravens better team than the Browns, so probably not going to be the case. But we can keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. Packers at 49ers. Packers are a little frisky. 9.5 point underdogs. I wonder if that's a
That's
motivating factor.
crazy.
50.5 is the over under. Um, I think this game has the potential to be so much fun, and I'm very excited for it. But I'm going 26-20 49ers. I think this is where the road ends, but I could see the Packers winning this game given what they showed last week. I could see this being a little higher scoring for sure than what I
Mhm.
said, but um, it would feel, excuse me, um, it would feel inauthentic for me to pick the Packers
Mhm.
because I think they could do it, but I don't think they would. So I'll pick the 49ers 26-20. I think the Packers could win though. I really do. Um, it's just gonna come back to Jordan Love. Will it be Jaden Reed's time to shine? or will it be a lot of the same? Will it be Christian Watson? That's a good thing about the Packers too. Like they're a little unpredictable in that sense.
Hmm.
Is Aaron Jones going to have 3 touchdowns and 100+ yards again? Probably not.
Probably not.
Maybe
Yeah,
he will. I don't know. But then on the other side, of course, the Cowboys did not have a Christian McCaffrey,
that is
Debo
true.
Samuel, George Kittle. We know the deal on offense. He has some playmakers on defense as well. Very well-rounded team. You can make the case for the best in the league. I don't think the Packers will make it easy though. 26-20.
No, I think this will be a back and forth game. I'm right there with you. If the Packers didn't absolutely blow out the Cowboys, I probably would have picked a 49ers blowout here. But Packers are scrappy. We've seen that. Jordan Love, like we just talked about with CJ Stroud, showing out this first playoff game, impressing a lot of people. So I think it keeps it close. But like you just said, the Cowboys didn't have a CMC. In that case, the 49ers will be able to slow the game down a little bit more than the Cowboys did. And they'll play at their pace a little bit more. So I'm going to have them taking this one in the close one, 27-23. The question I wanted to ask you, because we just talked about both the teams coming off of the bye, if you had to pick one of those two teams, which one do you think comes out a little bit more sluggish and maybe, is surprising with a little bit more of a slow start if you had to go with the Ravens or the Niners?
Oh, that's tough.
I want to pick the Niners, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's just a more talent factor. You think they're going to come out and blow doors, and then maybe off to a little bit of a slower start than you think. Maybe it's just because the Packers have played so well too, coming off of that big win, that they might again catch a team by surprise. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of leaning. Like maybe the Packers get the ball first and score quick, and the Niners like, oh shit.
Hmm.
Um, I don't
What
know
happened with the
about the
Cowboys?
Ravens. Yeah, I'm gonna lean a little bit 49ers.
Okay,
I like where your head's at on that.
thank you.
Um, Bucks at Lions could be another fun game. Like honestly, I really like the matchups. Um, Lions -6.5, over under is 48.5. I don't know how I feel about that over under.
Yeah, that's a
I'll
weird
make
number. Yep.
I'll make my decision on Sunday, I bet. I bet the line will move a little bit as well. Lions won 20-6 in week 6 a little while ago. I wouldn't say this is a huge like test of their will on offense because the Bucks have a good defense, but it's not going to be super easy to move the ball around at times. The Bucks play stingy defense, but at home, off a home win, you know, still got that high octane offense. They're not always lighting the world on fire, but they're capable on offense, very much so. Montgomery and Gibbs are a great tandem. Um, you know, I still think the Lions aren't like the most rock solid team on defense. Like I
Hmm.
can at any point in time see their defense kind of getting torched every once in a
They
while.
showed you that against the Rams last week. There were some iffy
Yep,
moments where you're kind
iffy
of
moments.
hold your breath.
hmm But I can't like I want to give them a potential upset here because of Baker. You know, moving on to being the Eagles, who were preseason favorites to win the Super Bowl. I just can't do it. Another home game in the playoffs, off a win, a tight win. They're playing a worse team than the Rams, in my opinion. Um, I got to go Lions. 22-17. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring. I'm going 22-17.
I think we're in for another back and forth one, but I think the Lions will win this one a little bit more comfortably than the Rams game. I got them winning 27-20. The Aiden Hutchinson, I was waiting for it in the Rams game. He had a good game. I think he had a couple of quarterback hits, had a couple of pressures, but I was waiting for that, strip sack of either Stafford, getting a fumble here and there. I think this is the game where he shows out and gets them to the NFC Championship game.
Go Lions. I really want to see them go to the Super Bowl.
It'd be
First year back.
crazy, wouldn't it?
It'd be so cool. Um, the last game of the week, barring any more weather
Mhm.
issues, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Bills and Chiefs. This week is awesome. Every single matchup is good.
Mhm.
Bills Chiefs in terms of animosity, history,
The fact that
is
you
the
finally get
best
one in Buffalo.
in Buffalo.
Yep.
Psycho fans. Bills are 2.5 point favorites. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yep.
Over under is 45.5. And I
I
think
would
there's a chance.
I would love for your score prediction to happen.
I think there's a chance the Bills win by 2 touchdowns.
I would love that. I want this game to not be close at
And
all, but it's gonna be.
I think it's going to be close to 2 touchdowns. I'm going 27-16 Bills.
Nothing the Chiefs showed you in that game against Miami has changed your thoughts on the Chiefs at all. It was more of
A
just
little,
Miami playing in the -2 degree weather and playing like the Dolphins in cold games.
a little. They're not the explosive Chiefs of old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're facing a team that's on the upswing the last few weeks in their home barn, potentially with some cold weather that both teams can handle, but it's a factor in the game, no matter what. I like the Bills. I can't pick against them here. I can't. I'm a little different on the Chiefs, but like I said, if the Chiefs and Dolphins didn't play each other, both of them will lose. So I
True.
kind of have to stick with that here.
That's
How I
fair.
feel
You
about the
have, yep,
Bills.
you have been riding that, so
I have to pick
give
the
credit
Bills.
there.
It's all Bills here.
I'm right there with you, but we've seen these matchups before. They tend to end pretty close. They tend to be nail biters back and forth. Like I said before, not the high flying, high scoring ones that we've seen in the past. I got the Bills winning 23-20. If I can't get your score prediction of a blowout in favor of the Bills, I'll take a Bills, Josh Allen last minute drive down the field and, a Tyler Bass game winning field goal, maybe in the snow or some crappy conditions. That'd be kind of cool. And get to see Patrick Mahomes lose for the first time on the road, because I think obviously a lot of people like to talk about that. Never have to go on the road in the playoffs. His legacy be awesome the first time that happens if he loses. Now, the one thing I am scared of, like you said, the Chiefs, they're not the high flying offense, but Bills, Chiefs, you hope this isn't a game that, they get up for and they just, play their best game of the season. Because obviously a huge rivalry, maybe the best the NFL has to offer in this day and age. I'm praying the Bills figure it out. Don't do something stupid in this game. Give the ball to Mahomes or anything like that. Like you said, you've been as hot as you've been all season. You're playing great football right now. Keep it up. And maybe I don't want to say shock the world because, like you said, they are 2.5 point favorites, but it would be, I think, surprising to some that the Bills finally were able to get over the hump that have been the Kansas City Chiefs these last couple of years for them.
Yeah, people are wondering like that controversial speech Sean McDermott gave a little while
That's
ago.
true.
It's worked. It's
Yeah,
worked.
just don't bring that up.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's worked, even though I just did.
Mm-hmm. You're not saying
Things
it's
have turned
right what
around.
he did,
Things have
but
turned around since that happened. That's
that's
all I'm
true.
saying. All I'm saying makes you think. I want to see Mahomes freaking out on the sidelines like he's done a couple times.
Spiking
Um,
helmets.
I want to see people get mad. I want to see them crumble. And I think they might. But that's it. I'm so excited. You got to appreciate it when you get matchups like this. You really do. And I am, because this is going to be a fun weekend of football.
Absolutely.
Let's go into the Bruins, shall we?
Okay.
Bruins Vegas on the 11th, 2-1 loss in overtime. Swayman subs 23-25. They outshoot the Golden Knights. The last week, better on faceoffs, not getting dominated on faceoffs at all, which is nice. Like to see
That's
that.
good.
They've been listening to the show. Thank you. Not the best game, to be honest. 0 for 3 on the power play. Penalty kill was good, though. Only let up, I guess, if you consider 20% for the team good. Sometimes it is. But 1 for 5, you'll take that from the Golden Knights. Jack Eichel recently got hurt. He will not represent them in the All-Star game, it sounds like. The real story in this one was the OT winner. Lackluster effort by Pasta. Lindholm stuck on an island in a 2-on-1, and it's over. 46 seconds in. Don't really have much else to take from this game. Wasn't super eventful. Didn't really change my outlook on the Bruins too much either way. St. Louis, at St. Louis, a 4-3 win, a satisfying win in overtime. 20 of 23 shots were saved by Jeremy Swayman. Low event from the terrible Blues. Bruins outshot them 35-23. Marchand sneaks one in over Bennington's shoulder. Got to keep that top corner. Clip down. Hard when you're bad at the game. The Hayes goal was way too easy. Didn't like that. Didn't like the effort level. McAvoy a little bit far behind as well on the coverage. But he made up for it. Great work on that kind of hazardous pass, I'll say is the word from Boquist. McAvoy catches it in his skates and rips it home. I'm very happy that Derek Forbort is potentially coming back sooner rather than later. He's been on the ice recently because I do not enjoy watching Hampus Lindholm on the penalty kill. A lot of these goals they allow for the opposing team's power play are Hampus Lindholm trying to box someone out, losing his guy, and reaching in at the end after the goal. I don't like it. I don't like him on the penalty kill. I wish it would change. Parker Wotherspoon might not be in the lineup when Forward's back, but if Wotherspoon sticks around, I would like to see. See, that's the thing. Like, do you want
Yeah,
to
who
put Matt
sits in that
Grzelcyk in
case then?
there
Yeah.
on the left side? You want to put Mason Lowry? I don't know. I want to see a different mix. I want to see Hampus Lindholm less. That's what I'll ask. Hampus Lindholm less in the penalty kill. My little soapbox. He frustrates me at times. I don't know what the perfect way to do it will be. We'll see what happens with Parker Wotherspoon and Mason Lowry when Forward is back. It was on that neighborhood goal. Didn't like it. Awesome puck movement on Marchand second. Like to see that. Oscar Sundqvist, I feel is kind of a thorn in the Bruins side. I hate that guy. Ties it on a tip. And then McAvoy gets retribution. Rob Thomas stumbles in the neutral zone, loses the puck. McAvoy takes it in and scores. I know it's been a while, but a few guys who lost to the Blues in 2019 really stepped up in this game, being McAvoy, Marchand, Pasta, all with 2 points. And the penalty kill was bad. They'll have 2 goals on 3 opportunities for the Blues. So that needs to be fixed, and I think it will be. New Jersey, 3-0 win. Nice, easy, stress-free win, in my opinion. A 31-save shutout from Jeremy Swayman at that point. Dmitry Filipovich had the fact that at that point he had shutouts in 11.4% of his NHL games, which was pretty preposterous.
Jesus, that's insane.
I heard that and I was like, there's no way that's right, but it's Dmitry Filipovich. He's pretty nails. So I'll believe him. Outshot the Devils 36-31. JVR scored in the first period, but all for naught. It was recalled. Scoreless first period, but the Charlie Coyle goal was exactly what you draw up in practice. A breakout pass. Pasta makes a move in the neutral zone, gets it to Marchand. Marchand gets his zone entry to McAvoy, to Pasta, boom. As clinical as you can get, really. Nice to see. Marchand, McAvoy, Pasta, bang, bang, boom. That was what cashed my parlay that day, McAvoy point.
There you go.
So that was nice. Bruins won, finished it off. Frederick dives to the empty netter. You got to hit 20 somehow. Sometimes you got to get a greasy one. He wants to hit 20, it looks like, this year. I believe that was number 14 for him. The Bruins are on a 6-game point streak. It's kind of little grain of salt because some shitty overtime points, overtime loser points, but that's okay. And since December 27th, Brad Marchand has been on a bit of a heater. Has 6 multi-point games, so that's very nice to see. Ryan, your thoughts on the week past, whatever you have caught of the Bruins?
Oh, my main joke takeaway is that they were finally able to get out of playing overtime games. What was it, like 4 games in a row that they just could not stay,
Yeah, like
within
4 or 5.
regulations. That was a little frustrating. But like you said, always nice to see him get the win against Bennington, get the win over the Blues. My kind of main takeaway, obviously, he said to step up with Olmark being out. I think I saw a thing today that said Olmark's probably going to be back. Is it against Montreal? So that'll be good to see, or at least he'll be backing, or is he backing up tonight? He's coming back at some point, I saw. But just the play of Jeremy Swayman of late. He's been fantastic. He's looking more and more like a potential, true number 1 goal each and every day. So his play, obviously, we've seen them go, with the goalie tandem all season, but with him getting some more and more games back to back, still, excuse me, still looking as sharp as ever. Has been great to see from Swayman.
Yeah, and with this tandem, there hasn't really been much of a reason for him to have consecutive starts.
True. Yep.
So to see him play pretty well was nice. Reinforcing what we already know about the guy, being a pretty good goalie and a guy that's going to get paid this summer, for sure. Love Jeremy Swayman, and he's an all-star. So shout out to him. Congrats to the swag man.
Did he get named as an all-star, or is he taking the place of Allmark? I didn't see.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
But they did the announcement. Monty will be there. Pasta
Gotcha.
will be there. Gonna be fun. They're playing the Avalanche right now. 29-13-3, going well. Beating a good team by 2 goals never hurts. They coming to this one were 29-13-3, second in the Central. Nate McKinnon, 72 points in 45 games, continues to put together an MVP type season. Brandon Bussey was sent back to Providence. So that's that. And Olmark is on the bench backing up Swayman. Patra, Carlo, Forbert were on the ice Wednesday in regular jerseys. Allmark is backing up. Carlo, I didn't check the lineup card. I'm not sure if he's in. Patra was reevaluated, is not playing. Worth noting for them. Valerian Nichushkin is out indefinitely. He's on the NHL/NHLPA player assistance program list, so that's a big loss for them in their lineup. Alexander Georgiev is in that again tonight. They have played him a lot, and I think it's having adverse results as we're seeing tonight.
I was just gonna say it showed tonight that if that's the case.
Yeah, they claimed Ivan Prosvetov from the Coyotes off waivers. I'm not sure what Pavel Franco's status is, but they are playing Georgiev a lot, and I imagine the man is gassed. And he's playing tonight against the Bruins. They had won 8 of their last 10 coming into this one. Montreal, leading scorer, Nick Suzuki, 37 points in 44 games and 19, 18, and 7. They beat the Devils last night. 6 in the Atlantic, which is not a very good team. One of the teams out there that probably has one of the first bigger names to move. Sounds like Sean Monahan is going to be moved potentially a little earlier before the deadline. So we'll see where he ends up. Just not a good team. Still building things. Got some pieces. Got some good young pieces. Working to get Slavkovsky more comfortable, but this should be a winnable game for the Bruins. Winnipeg, huge test. Can't say I expected Winnipeg to be this good this year, but looking how they retained everyone they were potentially going to trade, like Scheifele and Hellebuck. They played well even in Kyle Connor's absence. Mark Scheifele's hurt, but he might come back. Gabe Velarde's been fantastic ever since he came back from his injury. Nick Ehlers' defense is pretty good. The Winnipeg Jets are a very real Stanley Cup contender. And they're still pretty low on the depth chart in terms of betting for the Stanley Cup right now. So go check that out if you're looking for some long shot odds. They were plus like 1,500 a few days ago. They're very good. I could absolutely see this team winning the Cup this year. I think goaltending's huge too. And Hellebuck has not really got close to that elusive Stanley Cup. Extra motivation this year. Great team. Great depth. They're a legit test for the Bruins. Mark Scheifele, 41 points in 41 games. They're 29-10-4, first in the Central. And Kyle Connor will almost definitely be back. So that stinks. But adds to the difficulty of the test they have ahead of them. Then the Carolina Hurricanes at TD Garden. They're 24-14-5, turned things around since Andrei Svechnikov came back, understandably so. Third in the Metro. Sebastian Aho has 48 points in 40 games to pace them on the score sheet. And yeah, like I said, Svechnikov coming back has really boosted that team. And they're not the lowly, battered in goal necessarily Hurricanes of about a month ago. Kochetkov has been good. It's a good team. You know, with them, they've had injuries and ups and downs galore in net. So who knows what their goaltending situation will look like by the 24th. But all things considered, you know, barring catastrophe, should be a good game for the Bruins. What are you looking forward to this upcoming week?
Again, for joke purposes, staying in regulation, that'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But more performances like you talked briefly about with the Colorado thing tonight, getting off to fast starts. Like I said, I mean, Pastrnak scored right out of the jump, first shot on goal. So, you know, keep playing the way they've been playing of late. You know, obviously, like you said, with Allmark back, Swayman's probably getting a little bit of a rest, which will be good for him because he's played quite a bit of late. But, you know, keep up the production from him. You know, if Allmark gets back on a hot streak, you know, it'd be good to see him get going as well, get back in there and get comfortable. But more of the same. And like you said, some decent opponents coming up. So it'll be a nice little test again for the Bruins moving forward here.
Yeah, and I will say he's got some ways to go, but it's David Pastrnak, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Austin Matthews leads the league at 34 goals. Pasternak's been scoring at a good ticker now, and he's now tied for fourth with Besser and Panarin, 7 goals out of Matthews' lead. He's going to get closer. He's going to get into the top 2 or 3 relatively soon, I feel like. Pasta's hot, big time. We did have the rumor from Spit and Chicklets of Bergeron returning, skating around a little bit. Shot down by Bergeron in all caps, said not coming back in a text. I forget who he sent it to. So don't have to worry about that. Wasn't really considering it. Nothing, not like to shit on the Chicklets guys, just from a personal standpoint. I don't see Bergeron as a guy to come out of retirement. I think he's comfortable with what he's doing. I don't think he would do that. On the back half of 30, multiple kids, good family. Didn't see that happening. Were
Mhm.
you swayed by that at all? You're like, yeah,
No,
maybe. No,
no,
me
no
neither.
chance.
Yeah,
I
but
was
it's
shocked it
fun.
even
It's fun
came
to
out. I'm like, there's
speculate.
no way this guy's considering coming back. I mean, he is. We talked about it before. His family man is a family man gets. It seems like at this point,
Hmm.
injuries were maybe starting to pile up a little bit towards the end. Like, don't put yourself in a bad position if you don't have to. Like, just he rode off, stay ridden off
Yeah,
into retirement, enjoy the
they
rest of
did
your
it
life at this
well.
point.
Did it with class.
Hmm.
Also, the nightmare scenario is if he came back and got like seriously hurt or got another concussion, that would
Hmm.
break me inside. Not worth
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, you
Not
don't
worth
want
it.
that.
He just skates. He said it, jokingly on behind the B2. He went to grab sticks during practice once. I think he's just doing it to stay in shape for the alumni games, like he needs to.
Yeah.
Um, like for fuck's sake, man, guy just an animal.
Mhm.
Couple NHL notes. Old friend Nick Foligno continues to get paid 3.8 for a couple years by the Bruins. Gets a $4 million deal from the Blackhawks. Now gets 2 more years for $4.5 million. Veteran leadership and getting to the cap floor has value, and Nick Foligno provides that. Shout out to him, awesome guy. Jason Dickinson, one of the surprises of the season. 2 years, I believe, $4.5 million for him per. Probably going to replace Connor Bedard at the All Star game as he recovers from a broken jaw, fractured jaw rather. Already on the ice. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks and with a bubble, just skating lightly, I imagine. Just a freak. He's a hockey robot. Connor Bedard for sure. So shout out to them. Jason Dickinson's been a fun story to monitor. They'll keep him around. And speaking of them, they will go for a ton of picks like they've been doing at the deadline, according to TSN's insider trading. They're kind of going to try and, use the picks they have, maybe weaponize some of them and build this team around Bedard, it seems like, which is smart. You don't need really more picks at this point. You got tons. You have,
True.
I think they said 13 picks in the first two rounds of the next three drafts. Like, that's a lot. Um, the Tampa Bay Lightning came out and said they will not trade Steven Stamkos, somewhat expected, but, you know, maybe in a doomsday scenario where the Lightning are, really bad, maybe in fifth or sixth place, maybe they would entertain it. But he's the captain. I think they're going to try and keep him around, but it doesn't look good. They got a lot tied up in their top forwards. I believe 43 to 45 million and 9 forwards. Some big money on defense, big money to Vasilevsky. Um, I have a feeling, like Andre Palat to the Devils and Alex Killorn last summer to the Ducks, that Steven Stamkos will be a cap casualty, an unfortunate one as the captain, Stanley Cup champion, because they have a lot of money tied up. It's seriously that simple, even with the cap going up. But I think they're going to try and make it work for aforementioned reasons of his captaincy, leadership, and all that good stuff. And still a pretty good player. That's Steven Stamkos. The Coyotes are making progress towards buying land. I feel like we've been saying that for years. Or on the other side, things are a little chaotic. They're the Coyotes. They're chaotic. But they need to go to land auction. So it's not a sure thing that they get it. They got to figure that out. Jared Spurgeon, one more additional note, out for the year. The captain of the Minnesota Wild. That's $7.575 million on long-term IR freed up, which makes me think, are the Wild going to make a big trade for a defenseman with that extra money and try and get into the playoffs? Because they have some ground to make up. Just something to monitor. Maybe it's someone, a little more cost effective, but maybe they up their efforts sooner rather than later to trade for a defenseman. I'm looking at them to make a move. I'm looking at maybe Jacob Markstrom or Elvis Merzlikins to be moved at some point this season too. Merzlikins requested a trade from the Blue Jackets, so I don't think there's a lot going on with Merzlikins on the trade market, given what the TSN insider said. But I kind of wondered when those rumors first came out if maybe they do a 1-for-1 swap or maybe some other things involved of Markstrom to Columbus and Merzlikins to Calgary. But it doesn't sound like either of those guys are going to move soon. But a couple other names to monitor as I ramble here as we get into baseball. Ryan, any closing thoughts for you on the hockey side of things?
Not really, just kind of the one that stands out. Obviously, nice to see Nick Foligno continue to get in paydays, like you said. Looking as probably that guy who's just going to be a veteran voice down the line. Obviously, still has some NHL ability left. But I feel like when he was obviously traded there, that was kind of the mindset of a lot of people, which he's going to be a strong veteran presence for Bedard and a younger team as they move forward. So nice to see him sticking around and obviously continue to, get into play and be that veteran guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, the Red
Hmm.
Sox continue to be disappointing, and Tom Werner using the word artful
Hmm.
just like, did he stumble in his brain of what word to use and
He
artful
might
came
have
out? Who
because
uses that
I
word?
don't know. He might have stumbled because if you ask him, he thinks you push levers and pull buttons, I guess. But we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, disappointing. You said it in more ways than one this week. Instead of missing out on a potential free agent, although they could be, as you sent it to me earlier today, they're apparently in talks to bring back Adam Duvall, but are in a bidding war with the Los Angeles Angels right now. So, like I tweeted out right before the show started, Adam Duvall, congratulations, you are an LA Angel because the Red Sox will not pay for your services, even though you played with them last year and played pretty damn well. But yeah, instead of missing out on free agents or trade acquisitions or anything like that, the Red Sox this week proved to be just straight up liars to the fan base, and that has seemingly pissed a lot of people off. And maybe we're finally getting the revolt that we need for this team, or for this ownership group to finally get it in their head that we maybe have, pissed the fan base off here. We might need to change course. Because Craig Breslow had some comments. He talked with Pete Abraham this past week. And then Tom Werner, as you alluded to, he had an interview with Sean McAdams. A very surprising interview because I feel like at this point in time, you don't really tend to hear from the, big brass of the Red Sox, but we'll get to him in a second. The Breslow comments, I will give some credit to Craig Breslow for, because while most of Red Sox
Whoa.
ownership will sit behind the comments and the lies. Craig Breslow, I think this week basically came out and said it, that this is another bridge year. He didn't say that specifically. I've kind of alluded to it. I'm not going to read the full quote that Pete Abraham had, but basically Breslow, if I could sum it up, he kind of talked about like, oh, we're going to try to add talent, but it's going to mainly come from, development of our players at the major league level. And then, our trio of young stars potentially in Marcelo Mayo, Roman Anthony, and Kyle Teal, the three top prospects that they're going to wait on. He said that group, is going to be an impact big leaguer, big leaguers. And then they say, the convergence of all those pieces is the fastest path to the World Series team, to which that's the one thing I will knock Craig Breslow for. Like, if you're just hoping for, young player development to be your coast to the World Series instead of going out and, making trades and, adding, impact big leaguers, you might want to see what the Texas Rangers just did this past year. They tended to mix both together. They had some good young players in Josh Jung and Evan Carter step up for him, but also went out and made big moves like getting a Nathan Eovaldi, a Jacob deGrom, trading for Max Scherzer. Like, these are things that help
Yeah,
you
no,
on
not
both ends.
schmucks.
Yeah, not
All
schmucks.
pitchers too.
hmm
Red Sox.
Yep. But that's the
Um,
problem too, is like if you want to get those type of guys, you have to have some decent pitching prospects. And the Red Sox, as we've come to find out, they don't. They don't have any pitching prospects. So maybe that's why
can I
teams are not all that interested in trading with you at the moment.
can I say something, Ryan?
Sure.
That might ruffle some feathers, the Red Sox fans.
Let's go ahead. That's what we do here, or try to do.
I wonder how much of the philosophy that we have tied to Chaim Bloom in the past was really Chaim Bloom
It's a
at this
fair
point.
question to ask.
Kind of feels like we're going with the same mindset, just
Mhm.
Craig
Just a
Breslow in his
different
spot.
face. Yeah.
I don't know how much, Craig Breslow might be trying to do more of that they're limiting him or what. But I'm kind of feeling Chaim Bloom scapegoat vibes a little more than I
hmm
was a couple months ago.
Well, no, I mean it's
Which
fair to
is
say
which,
that,
is
and
not to say I don't think Chaim Bloom should have been fired. I think there was absolutely a case for it.
mm,
But the structure and the tactics feel like it was the higher ups more so than Bloom all along.
yeah, you get some of that, and then like I'm going to get to in a second here with the Tom Werner comments. They're already working to throw Craig Breslow under the bus if things go wrong. This conversation with Sean McAdam, was on the full throttle comments, like you mentioned. So Tom Werner's quotes on that, he said, "quote Maybe it wasn't the most artful, as you said, way of saying what I wanted to say, which is that we were going to be pressing all levers to improve this team. In the end, nobody's happy with our performance the last few years." Again, Tom Warner thinks you press levers and pull buttons because that's how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
you said,
you don't
artful.
do that? You don't do that, Ryan?
No, I don't. I don't. Last time I
I wonder
checked, I
if
don't think I
he
press
pushes
buttons.
pull doors and
I was
pushes
just
the
gonna make the
doors as
same
well.
joke. You took it
I
right
do
from me.
that all the time at work.
Mhm.
All the fucking time at work.
Yep. It happens to the best of us. Maybe Tom Warner more so than none. But I'll start because I had some notes that I was going to compile at the end. But I'll kind of just tick them off as I go here with these comments. Like, he, he can try to walk back the full throttle comments all he wants. In an off season where you have names like Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Even Imanaga, who they missed out on, obviously, he ended up going and signing with the Cubs, as we now know. Um, when you say that you're going full throttle, the Red Sox fans aren't stupid. They're going to sit there and think, oh, if you're going full throttle, you need pitching. That probably means you're going to go out and get one of those guys, or at least try to. But nope, full throttle to Tom Werner means, just continue to cut payroll and, try to, piece it together with, raise level acquisitions and moves like that. He also talked about Yamamoto. He said we felt strongly that we were going to compete for Yamamoto's services, but in the end, he went to another team. But we felt like we were in the mix and we're going to be competitive. We certainly aren't happy with the current roster as it was at the end of last year. So I was going to say it again. If I was going to say it again, I would say we're going to, again, be pressing all levers and we weren't going to be happy with just one. Again, like you can't walk back the full throttle comment no matter how much you try. It's a load of bullshit. Like you should have just came out and told Red Sox
And it was
fans at the
predictable
start.
bullshit too.
It absolutely
That's
was.
the most disheartening thing.
Yep.
I don't even know if disheartening is the word at this point because it is expected. I don't know what the right adjective is off the top of my head. This is just it. Like
it had the makings of a.
It finds ways to snowball, and
Well,
it's not always in the conventional like missing out on a guy, having the interest. Now it's this. I saw like 4 days ago that they were in on Blake Snell, or at least talking to Blake Snell. Nothing since then.
Oh, they're not going to go and
Nothing.
I think you can pretty much put Snell and Montgomery to bed at this point.
It was like something they recontacted his like agent or something, and someone in the organization was like, "Hey, put that out there, put that out there." Like that's what it seems like.
Sounds about right.
Like let's get the interest going.
But yeah, I mean, the whole full throttle comment itself. I mean, the Red Sox, I feel like in the offseason are good for one of these stupid comments. Like, or if you remember, I think last year was the Heimblum, like, this is going to be fun, or it's going to be a lot of fun comment that immediately just people took as like, well, this is definitely going to come back and blow up in their face. And it did. The full throttle comment, everyone kind of had the same thought process at that as well. Like, okay, unless you do something to back that up, this is going to blow up in your face. And it absolutely has without doing anything. The other one, too, that aggravates me as well. And again, just to show how just out of touch and just tone deaf, as we talked about, this ownership group is, like I alluded to, is they're already trying to throw Craig Breslow under the bus with things. Because Breslow, in the quote that I didn't touch on with Pete Abraham, when he was asked about, the level of commitment from ownership, he put out flat out said, as I've gotten to know this organization better through the conversation they've had with ownership, they absolutely are still supportive of assembling a World Series team as quickly as they possibly can. If you ask Tom Werner, though, he said this. He said, in the end, we don't have a line in terms of our payroll that we look at as much as trusting that Craig is going to deliver on his assurance that we're going to be competitive. So Tom Werner is saying Craig Breslow is the one that the Red Sox are going to be competitive. Craig Breslow says that it's ownership that wants to be competitive. Who's talking to who here? Is anyone talking to each other? Because right now it's
any sort of intersection.
It's setting up that you said that you wanted to be competitive, but that's not what we were setting up. But you can see where this is going. Like if in a couple of years we're right back to where it's going to happen, but where we've been with the Heimblum years, if you said, this is just another case of like, okay, 3 years in, Craig Breslow's, not getting it done. He's still padded the farm system, but we can't get over the top because we're not spending any money. Let's just cut bait with him. And, he just didn't work out in the end. He wasn't our guy to get us over the hump. So they're already laying the groundwork for just complete failure again.
This was the one thing too. Like I've kind of, been flirting with this mindset, but holding out hope that somehow things change. That I am fully in the mindset of we're gonna see Marcelo Mayer at some point this year. I hope he's nasty. And Roman Anthony.
He's got to learn to hit a curveball first. That was his problem in AAA last year. Could not hit a breaking ball. He was the real life for the Major League fans out. The real life Pedro Serrano. Can hit a fastball, can hit a curveball.
At this point, I'm gonna try and not get super pissed about the Red Sox at this point because barring a sudden shift in philosophy, they're not gonna do shit and they're gonna be bad. And they're not going to try and be competitive. They're going to add a couple patchwork signings for maybe decent money, but nothing that's going to blow you away. Because there's still guys available. Like you might have to dig a little deeper to find them, but they're not going to throw money at Snell at this point or Montgomery, it seems. At this point, it's all about Mayer, Anthony, Teal. All I care about. Because those guys all have potential to be superstars, especially I'd say Mayer. I feel like Anthony and Teal have kind of jumped Mayer a little bit.
Yep. Anthony definitely has at least. They came out with a prospect list.
I think there's a case that Kyle Teal is the best prospect in the organization.
He might be. That's the thing I was going to allude to, though, is that people can. I'm not saying you specifically, but Red Sox can talk about like these are the guys that we're looking to the future for. These are going to be contributing guys. Like I said, Mayer hasn't proven he can hit a curveball, and also was hurt most of last year. So now you're
Yeah.
waiting for him to bounce back from an injury. Roman Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, is 19, 20 years
Yeah,
old.
19 or 20.
So
So
that's a guy that's not breaking through anytime soon. And Kyle Teel, they just came
exactly.
out with yesterday or today, I think it was the top 10 catching prospects. He was ranked number 5, but if you looked at his ETA on
That's
that,
nuts. I'm sorry.
2020,
That's
go
pretty
ahead.
nuts.
It is.
He is number 5.
Yep.
There must be some unbelievable catching prospects because everything I read about this kid is like stupidly good.
But that was the thing I was going to add is if you look at his ETA for when he's supposed to break into the majors, 2025 or
2020. Yeah,
2026, if from
I've
what
seen
you've seen.
2026
All
too.
right, so we've seen two different things then. So again,
Yeah, at this
nobody knows when
point,
he's coming through. So that
I'm
just proves the
expecting a
point.
non-competitive franchise. Maybe some Marcelo Mayer. Maybe he shows you something, and just if they're gonna do this, like I'm just gonna get excited about the guys that'll be on the team someday because there's no point in garnering any optimism about this team right now. Like at least just hope for good progress from these 3 guys. Like this is the big 3. Like undoubtedly, if they're not going to be competitive, like I'm not going to waste my time. Too much emotional investment. It's just going to be a lot of disappointment, a lot of the same shit, and a lot of fucking lying.
Yeah,
Like they
yep.
straight up lie. They don't have a consistent message, which is I'm not putting on Craig Breslow. He's new. These guys are such fucking clowns, man.
Yep.
It's so embarrassing.
But the thing that should worry you too is like, okay, I feel like there are probably some people that have taken your mindset, like, okay, we'll wait until the young guys get here. It's fine. We'll wait for, as we talked about before, get psyched for the 2030 Red Sox.
Yeah, like what else can I do at this
but
point?
the thing is, it's Craig Breslow again. He talked about, because obviously the Red Sox have a pitching deficiency in their minor league system, and Craig Breslow talks about, we're going to draft and develop these guys. Okay, this isn't basketball or football. You don't draft and develop guys in a year or two. Like especially young pitchers, it takes 3 to 4 years for some of these guys to get through the minors, depending on what age they break into baseball at or what age they get drafted at. So again, this is not a like, hey, we'll get all these guys ready to go and they'll all be here in September and we'll be pushing for a playoffs. Like again, this is going to be 2 or 3 years down the road. So again, you would like them to just come out like Breslow kind of did and like, all right, this is going to be another bridge year, but I don't know how much longer people can wait for it to keep sitting there and expecting that to be the answer. And people will be like, all right, let's just sit back and wait till 2028, 2029 and see if they can put it together then.
The funny thing too is it would have made sense if they got this done quick because they like to cut costs. It's like the Kenley Jansen trade has picked up no steam really.
Yep, that's kind of died off.
Yeah, like I don't know if they're gonna do it. I was kind of in the mindset like if this guy's right from that Bleacher Report article, they can get a prospect at the quality of Jack Leiter. I would do that. Like if they're gonna cut costs and suck, like just trade him for a fucking pitching prospect.
Yeah,
Craig Breslow wants pitching prospects. Jack Leiter could be in the MLB in a year or two. I don't know. There's no. It's just a complete clusterfuck. Complete clusterfuck. There's nothing different, but it just develops in different ways.
Yeah,
at this point. Some new shit comes out. It's the off season, storylines are going to come out, quotes.
No,
stuff.
The thing that's frustrating too is I think it was Lou Merloti that had the tweet the other day where, if you can be competitive without, overexpending, you can maybe make a trade. Like if you want to trade Kenley Jansen, okay. But then you go out and make a signing like a Jorge Soler, go out and get Jordan Montgomery. You can be competitive that way without, breaking the bank. Those 2 guys are not going to make a ton of money. Hell, go get Montgomery and bring back Duvall. I think a lot of Red Sox fans will be fine with that, just to show that you're being competitive at some, back that claim up that you're going to be competitive. That at least, puts a little bit of, shine in the lie that,
at the same time though, adding Duvall is like, hey, we did something type of move.
That's all it'll be. But again, if you can pair that with Montgomery, then stupid Red Sox fans will go, oh, look, they did stuff. Maybe they will be competitive. But you and I will sit here and go, okay, that's exactly what it is. It's what's the old saying? It's like putting lipstick on a pig or something. It's basically that. Like you're just shining up shit at this point.
I kind of wonder at this point if there are even many fans at all that think that way. Like, oh, look, they did something.
I can't imagine, especially like, this is you're starting to see a full on, I feel like, revolt. Like Carabas had the great tweet the other day. Where he said the Red Sox are a small market baseball team now. That's basically what they're telling you. It's a slap in the face to all the fans who pay the highest ticket prices in baseball. He's 100% right. And again, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad Craig Breslow, kind of alluded to this, like when he said basically again, we're building towards another bridge here. Um, it's nice to see that these things are starting to come out and people are maybe starting to call the Red Sox on their lying ways, but until they actually do something to maybe change that perception, like nothing's going to change. So
Nothing's gonna
maybe
change.
people should take the mindset that you're starting to take of, we'll build towards the prospects and
Yeah,
I'll wait until you
another
actually
shit
do
year.
something to impress me. But
Maybe
it's a
they'll win the
tough pill to
lottery
swallow.
next year and get a pitcher. I don't know, man. Like
Hmm.
that's at this point, it feels weird to say in baseball, like, fuck it. Like just suck and win the lottery. Like at this point. You want pitching prospects? Maybe there'll be an
Very
awesome
tough to
one,
tank in
a few
baseball, though.
awesome
It's
ones. Yeah.
very tough.
Um, I'll leave the people with this. The more things change, namely Craig Breslow and Chaim Bloom the more they stay the same.
True.
That's it. And that is episode 176. We'll be back, barring Ryan or me getting sick again,
Yep.
on Wednesday next week. So stay tuned for that. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. Glad to have Ryan back in the mix, healthier.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. You can find us wherever you find your podcast. You can rate and review on Spotify and Apple. You can find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Sal and Cratty Pod. Maybe we'll post a little bit on TikTok. You know the drill if you listen at this point. We kind of just post when we feel like it. Have talked to one Mike McClellan, friend of the show, former TikTok producer, about doing some videos. He's been talking about that, hasn't done them. Come on, man.
He's
On the
the Bruins game
payroll.
right now.
He's at the Bruins game right now. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday.
We will see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you then. Enjoy.